Audio test. I have to, otherwise I don't get any worse. You know, I have height.
Justin, say something to that mic from here.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
We are on.
All right.
Hi, we have grievance, but we're going to take care of that in the joint session,
We are?
right? So
Yes.
we will hold that.
Okay.
And then, as I understand it, 23 virtual school and 7 employee authority and protection on your side.
Correct.
Okay.
We're prepared to speak to those tonight.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start with Article 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, so Justin, we went back to the statute and looked at the statute to see what the statute had said. And so I am going to share the statute with you because what we did with Article 7 is we put it back to its original form. Because we had a conversation on the second page, you can see we just changed the pronouns on the first page. But on the second page, number 2, what we were going back and forth against was just versus proper, right? So what we have done back, moving to Florida statute, it is for proper cause. So here are copies of the statute. I don't have copies for everybody. And we highlighted that so you could see that here it is the right of the public employer to direct its employees and take disciplinary action for proper cause, not for just cause. So when you're disciplinary, it's for proper cause. When you're dismissal, that is for just cause. Okay? And here's the other piece to that demonstrates that.
And it references to Article 3.
And we'll have to go back. That was my conversation. We're going to have to go back, if you're okay with that, and open that back up and reflect that change. So the both articles would align, if you will.
Well, as you know, the law, as we recently noticed, the laws are ambiguous sometimes.
I got that one.
And they might use proper and just interchangeably as well. So just like it seems that we are doing in our contract. One of the recent pieces of legislation refers to discussion in one place and instruction in another with no real distinction as to what's the difference. So can you speak to the difference as they are used here, or are you just trying to align to the law regardless of whether proper and just are synonymous?
Well, and what we're doing is we're aligning to the statute because that's what the statute says, and we're rule followers here. And so looking at, again, the distinct difference is when you're disciplined, it is for a proper cause.
Okay.
If it is in fact for dismissal, then you have to follow it for a just cause. And of course, there's a number of things that fall under just cause of why you could be dismissed.
All Are professional service contracts also continuing contracts?
Two different. Professional service contract and continuing are two different
Mhm.
types of contracts.
Right.
Well, like continuing contracts are an exception from what I'm reading here.
They are an exception.
Are professional service contracts an exception?
Continuing, you can't really terminate employment.
We have very few of those left.
Correct.
Four,
Very
I
few of
think.
those left.
All right, all such contracts except continuing contracts as specified in subsection 4 shall contain provisions for dismissal during the term of the contract only for just cause.
Of course, if you look down at number 3 on, I think on that page, that's where the professional service contract shall be renewed each year unless, and then of course those qualifiers there.
Well, this references subsection 4, but I guess we don't need it because we know what continuing contracts are.
Right. So if you want to take that back in caucus.
Yeah, just let me think right now
I'll
for a
think about
second.
that.
Yeah. So in Article 3, I'm sure you looked over Article 3 as well.
Mhm.
It is also the right of the board to direct its employees, take disciplinary action for just cause, and relieve its employees from duty for just cause because of the lack of work or for other legitimate reasons.
And that's taken right from here.
Yeah, so that's broad powers, which we stipulate.
So
Not
do you
gonna
want
argue
to
that.
change that to proper? Is that what you're saying?
That's what to align both of the articles, that's what we would propose to do.
But then you would have to change for relieve its employees from duty would be for
Right.
just cause.
Right,
Right, that would
Disciplinary.
remain.
right. Just as it says here in the, it's
Okay,
the same verbiage.
okay. So other than aligning with these two statutes, what's the difference between proper cause and just cause?
The proper cause is for discipline. I mean, it could be for whatever discipline you have. Where just cause, I mean, it's very clear in the statute. Things like it really defines what just cause is. There's a definition of just cause. And you only can be terminated or dismissed for just cause,
But you can be disciplined for proper cause.
for proper cause.
Okay,
You may not be disciplined for something that was just cause. It could be related.
yeah, it gives a just cause includes, but is not limited to the following instances.
Just clear. The official definition of just cause is a standard that management must adhere to when disciplining or discharging an employee. That is the official definition. And-
Dismissal. That's
Or-
right, yeah.
Yeah, dismissal or
Discharging, is that what you said?
Yes, disciplining or discharging.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not worth we can talk about it. It's not worth the argument.
All right, so you would want 3 to say proper cause in the first just cause, but leave the second just cause.
Right.
And then in Article 11, it would be fine, I'm assuming, then to keep just cause because it's termination under habitual abuser of leave or misuse of leave.
Yeah, I'd have to, what is that one?
Article
11.
Article 11? Okay, we'll look at that. And then Justin, here is copies of Article 3 if you decide you want to open it back up.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's-
Or we did.
I don't know.
We did.
It's just the one change then.
This is just the one
Okay,
change,
all right.
yes.
Okay. We will discuss that,
Okay.
and that is all related to Article 7.
Yes,
Yeah,
and then
There's
We
more,
did-
there's more.
we did go back, like I said earlier, we did go back to the original form on the narration down at the bottom. On number 3, just so you were aware of that.
What is the reason for that? So a meeting that will adversely affect the employee's continued employment versus official reprimand in quotes. What's the significance to you?
Well, official reprimand could be for when you're getting a reprimand, letter of reprimand,
Mhm.
where in fact, if anything prior to, I mean, if it's just a verbal, if it is just a letter of correction, you know, again, you would only give that 24 hours because it could be, we look at verbal and letter of improvement as trying to help the employee. We want them to get better. We even say, make that a positive, you know, be sure that you're helping the person get to where they need to be and be expecting what you expect them to do.
So if I
So
look
if
for
you're
a
doing a
definite,
letter of reprimand, that's when it is discipline because you've gone through those steps of progressive discipline. And so now you have to go one step further in giving that 24 hours notice.
okay, so where would I find the definition of official reprimand somewhere in the contract? It's being referenced here. Where would I find what that is? You just explained that it could be anything from this to this. Where would I find that?
Well, let me go back and I'll have to look and see if we have it in progressive discipline.
You do.
Yeah,
Well, you don't-
that's where it
So,
is.
right.
That's where it is. So official reprimand would have a definition according to a policy.
Mhm.
Putting it in quotes, I mean, it's not a quote. We're not quoting someone, but having it back in quotes is implying ambiguity. Our sentence was unambiguous for a meeting that will adversely affect the employee's continued employment. I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
And
And it's not limiting either. If it will adversely affect the continued employment of the employee. So I don't think that limits management in any way.
no, and your progressive discipline policy that you use is very clear that says verbal, letter of improvement, letter of reprimand,
Mhm.
which titled progressive discipline.
Correct.
So verbal and a letter of improvement are considered discipline. They are discipline. So, and I would disagree that not all letters of verbals or letter of improvements are counseling. I've seen many of those letters. They're not necessarily, how can we help you improve letters? They are, do not miss any more days, or that's not necessarily counseling. So it is our position that, and I will, obviously this will come back to us for SJEA, that if you're going to follow progressive discipline, your policy that you've developed, that you've been doing for many years, the employee has a right to be prepared and to have someone that sits with them and get a 24-hour notice. 24-hour
Well,
notice is
Has
easy.
it been a problem? Has it been a problem that anyone was denied
Actually, yes,
representation?
yes.
Yes, mostly. I mean, we said this at the last session. The biggest problem, one with the most effect, would be when someone's being terminated and not allowed to have representation. They didn't have the notice, the appropriate notice. So our language clarifies that.
Okay, well, if that's something you want to put in there and change and modify, then, you know, caucus and. send it
We'd
back
like to
us.
codify steps of progressive discipline, but we understand that's a big ask, and we're stipulating that's not going to be in the contract.
Right.
We trust that you'll continue to use progressive discipline in your policy, but I think that one ask was pretty reasonable. I think we can debate the proper cause thing and find a solution there.
Okay.
All right.
Right, we have one other one. This is the MOU, and you've seen this MOU before, and it has to do with the working lunch tutoring. We had it in the, before, and so this is something, you know, based on some of the plans or if some of the programs that principals would like to offer this during this school day, that at least if there were teachers that had, that wanted,
We're familiar with the MOU from years past.
correct.
Do you have any data? How many? It started with, I think, Pacetti Bay Middle.
Pacetti Bay used it a lot. There were a few more schools that did that this year. And that we anticipate that there might be a few more that might be on board with it next year just because of the remediation, trying to really address the lowest quartile and really working with them, and especially with our high need schools, not being able to provide that transportation after hours. that we'd be able to, if that was a desire of the school and put that in place and there were teachers who were interested in doing that, that they'd have that opportunity to do that.
Okay, we weren't expecting this, so we'll have to caucus and talk about it. My initial reaction is I don't remember, I could be wrong, but I don't remember the tutor rate for the 30 minutes and then the employee's regular rate for the they will be paid their regular rate of pay for the 7.5-hour day and the tutor rate. Why wouldn't they just be paid their rate?
Because they're tutoring during that time.
They can apply for a tutor job if that's the case. This is supposed to get highly qualified teachers in front of students. That's what the purpose of this was originally, not to get teachers to work for tutor pay.
Well, we'll go back and look at that, but I'm sure that's what it said. We had the tutor pay in there. I'll go back and look at it.
Like I said, I will need to
But
go
that's,
back
we
and look
took
at
it
it. Wasn't
verbatim.
expecting
We
it.
took it verbatim
You used
from
the
the
original
original document that we used.
So it says $32.31 per hour for 30 minutes of tutoring. So are they getting half of that, or
No,
they're getting the
They
full
would get half of that.
$32.31
Yeah,
for
16.
the
they
30
would get half
minutes?
of that, yes.
So they're getting half of it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So volunteer tutor will be paid. Yeah, just post a tutoring job at this point. That's what would make sense to me, but I don't know.
Sam, did you have it last year?
It was the year before.
I didn't think it was,
We have it
yeah,
on page 81.
I didn't think it
We
was last
do?
year.
I just looked for it. I didn't see it, but
Oh, it was for 1920.
Yeah, it's the
Right.
old, it's a year ago. We didn't have it last
We
year.
didn't have it last year.
Jen probably has it.
And does it say, Jen, what's the rate?
Then was the old tutor rate.
yep,
Correct.
it does say
That's
tutor rate.
Mhm.
Instructional teachers who would work 8 hours on identified tutor days. I think I know what's happening here. So they're working during their lunch, right?
They're working during their lunch, but again, it would be as if they were working after school. And they would put that extra 30 minutes in, but then be paid for that 30 minutes of planning
Okay.
time.
So now I'm remembering. I remember Jay Willits was the one, right?
Presented it, yes, sir.
Okay. So if I remember right, the way this works then is that I work during my lunch. I'm getting paid my full rate of pay. And then his idea was then I'll compensate you for 30 minutes of work later, but at the tutor rate.
Mhm.
But you're not actually working 30 more minutes.
Right,
You're just working during your lunch and that's it.
Correct. but yes. But we'll work 8-hour days on those identified tutor days, number one. So
So you're
you're looking at, you're getting that 30 minutes of tutoring after school.
you're staying extra.
Mhm. But you're being paid for that 30 minutes for the tutoring because you are.
Maybe I misunderstood it then, but I don't know. It doesn't sound right, but we'll talk it through.
Can I ask a
All right.
question, Justin?
Yeah,
Is this, I know when we first did this, it was really focusing on middle schools and possibly high schools. With this language, doesn't really, I don't know, before it didn't either. Are we anticipating this may be a elementary,
Could very
middle,
well
and high
be,
school?
yes. We wanted to keep it open so it would include everybody.
And each school-based administration can decide if they want to take advantage of it or not? Okay, thank you.
instructional employees work 8 hours and then get regular rate of pay. And so when are they doing the tutoring?
During their lunch.
Okay, what happens 30 minutes after school then?
Making up their time.
They're making up their time.
They're not tutoring someone else.
No,
They can have their lunch at the end of the day.
Okay. All right.
all right, so now we're ready to pass across and talk about virtual school. So I'm going to turn it over to Kristen and to Ryan to walk through the article.
Wait, let me keep a copy for myself. Okay, so our counter is in purple, and I want to walk you through because we really heard what you shared and your thoughts in your counter from last week. And so we went back and did some homework, and we have a lot of data to share with you to explain our thinking on each of these pieces. Okay, so starting out with the first big change is we've restored, as you'll see in item 4, that we are proposing that when we're compensating a full-time teacher for going over their caps, we're going to do this on an annual basis or a yearly basis, however we want to describe that. Okay. And so you'll see that we changed the numbers in purple to be what the yearly amounts would be. We're still counting based on semester course completions. So if you look before, where it said 200, which was understood as 200 per semester, now it says 400. Okay. So I want to walk you through the reasoning behind that. Really, the biggest reason here is because we're talking about our full-time St. John's Virtual School teachers. So these are teachers that are on a full-year contract and that are on a salary. And so regardless of the student loads that they have first semester, second semester, their pay is consistent because they're salaried teachers for the entire school year. So the example you used is if there's an imbalance. So if you have more students first semester, you have fewer students second semester, we're not going back to those teachers second semester, and we're not taking money out of their paychecks, and we're not making them do extra duties. We're not making them show up on the St. John's virtual campus and do additional work because they're going to have lower numbers of students in the second semester. So we do find with St. John's Virtual, as with several of our traditional schools, you may be familiar, that we have normal attrition throughout the course of a school year. So it's typical that St. John's Virtual, as well as other schools, has more students first semester and fewer students second semester. The other piece to consider with St. John's Virtual School is it's funded based on completions versus a brick and mortar school is funded based on our FTE counts in the fall and in the spring. So for St. John's Virtual School, they don't receive any funding if a student doesn't complete those semester course enrollments. And so what that means is that as we're looking at full-time teachers, we need our full-time teachers to maintain student numbers really at these caps in order for us to be financially feasible to have them as full-time salaried employees. I have some examples I'll share with you in terms of how this would break down semester to semester and showing you some comparisons of some numbers and pieces like that to kind of explain our thinking on this. With the understanding that, we want full-time teachers at St. John's Virtual School. We recognize that they bring a value to the program, that we have teachers that are available throughout the day. They have the most knowledge of the curriculum. They have the most knowledge of the grading and all of those pieces, the technology. So as a program, we want to keep our full-time teachers and we don't want to overload them. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of how many students we have to keep on their enrollments so that we'll have enough completions to earn FTE to be able to continue to pay their salaries. So just so you know kind of where our break-even point is, if you have a full-time salaried St. John's Virtual School teacher, our break-even point is 380 semester completions. And what I mean by a break-even point is that is the point at which it would be more financially, well, it would be less expensive if we were to hire an adjunct instead. That would be the point at which those 380 completions at a teacher that's making our base pay that we've negotiated for this year at $47.5 would be at $125 a completion. So 380 over the course of the year is below all of these caps. It's well below the core cap, it's well below the elective, as well as the blended cap as well. So I just want you to kind of know these are the numbers that we're looking at when we're looking at this.
And you're using the 125, that's the part-time as needed pay
Right.
for completion as
Right.
your reference point.
Yes.
So I turn the page, I hope to see that number.
No, it's right
reference
now,
point.
you're right. Right now is a for a salaried teacher at $47.5. If they were at the elective teacher cap, it would be $95 a completion. It's somewhere in between because teachers complete somewhere between.
Around 400. So
That's the high end though. Right now, where the range is.
I mean, it
people
could
in
be
yearly completions.
260
Right.
and then all the way up to 580. So I mean, there's a range.
Yeah. So right now, we only have one St. John's Virtual School full-time instructor that is going to be over their caps for this year based on the enrollments that we have. There are only 9 instructors that are between 300 and 380. So there's only 9 instructors that are even getting close to what we consider the break-even point. And then the remaining full-time instructors are well below 300, or they're at or below 300, I could say. So all this is to say that we want to keep people close to their caps, but we do agree that if over the course of a year, if we're going over, we've agreed that, we want to compensate those folks. So I just want to share with you some examples of what that might look like.
So this, Phyllis, is examples of teachers over caps. And some of this relates to what we're going to talk about on the next page.
Just before you move on, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said that okay, so in this, I got to give you a scenario. If the yearly cap is if I teach a core, my yearly cap is 400. If I'm over 200 in the first semester by 20, I won't lose those by being at 180 in the second semester, or will I?
So on here, we kind of tried to capture
Okay.
that
All right.
visually.
All right.
The other piece is that, that is the case. We do, like I said, you may have fewer students next semester. So then you have more time on your hands second semester. So we just gave some kind of examples of how this might play out. In A, we have, you were dead even right at your cap, 200 and 200. Example B would be, okay, you're a little bit over first semester, but then you're under second semester. And so we're still even there. The third example we showed on here to show, we also have teachers that are well below their caps all year. And again, that's too, they are on the salary. They're all making their paycheck. They're all getting their salary. They're all taking it home. D, E, and F are kind of the examples of teachers going over their caps and what that might look like. So the example in D is a core teacher that's got several students over first semester, but then they aren't over second semester. So we're going to look at for the year. We're going to get them at 411 for the year. And so that would be their annual additional pay, which we'll get to in the next item. And then we've given you examples for elective and elementary. So this, kind of hold on to this because we're going to touch on this again when we talk about the amounts as well. So if you want to flip over to look at page 2 and look at number 7. Okay. So for number 7, a couple things. One is we believe that elementary and secondary teachers that go over their caps should be compensated at the same amount. We looked at, again, some workload pieces, and we want to share that information with you. Phyllis, do you look at elementary versus secondary? So here's this.
Yeah, that's what we looked at too. So let's see how close we are.
This and this. Oh, yeah. So what I have on here is for elementary math, secondary math, elementary ELA, secondary ELA. These are just samples, right?
This is not actual data.
This is actual data.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just mean, I just picked math and English because those are subjects that everybody has,
Okay.
4 subjects.
Gotcha. Samples,
So-
not examples.
Samples, not
I
examples,
understand.
yes. So, and what you have here is, so all of these courses, it's a range. So every single course that St. John's Virtual has, it's a huge range. Number of assignments,
Right.
usually DBAs are pretty stable, but, so we wanted to show you the highest and the lowest elementary math. So that's what you have here, the highest and the lowest secondary math, the highest and the lowest elementary ELA, and the highest and the lowest secondary ELA. And we've sorted that based on teacher graded assessments because there are auto graded assessments and there's teacher graded assessments. So if you look, you'll see, in an elementary math, and I'm really looking at the column all the way over to the right.
Right.
That's telling everything that teacher has to touch in terms of grading. And so when we're looking at elementary math, we're at 77 for the highest, 68 for the lowest. Secondary math, 42 for the highest, 17 for the lowest. Kindergarten ELA, 49, second grade ELA, 30, secondary, 56, 28. The question we're trying to answer here is, is the amount of work equivalent? And we believe that it is, okay? You also see that there's a middle column for DBAs, and they're comparable as well. So we believe that elementary and secondary should be compensated at the same rate. We do understand that secondary, there's a difference because they have 200 individual students versus having maybe 35 individual students times 5 classes. And so, we definitely see that, but you can also see that, for example, some of our elementary classes have some significantly more grading. The other consideration is that our elementary school students require significantly more one-on-one assistance through Zoom. So the teachers are spending time on their Zoom actually assisting individual students more frequently. So this
How'd
is
you get
all,
that data? How'd you get that data? That they spend more time on Zoom?
Well,
Is that theoretical?
Well, there's class connects that are happening twice a week in elementary, and with the secondary, they have one live lesson or class connect that's happening just once a week.
Per course week.
Right. So,
And
Yeah, but
Hang on.
this data, good data for us to help, process. Did you capture, so it sounds like you started to capture some office hours and parent guardian contact data. Do we have any more of that, or are we just looking at teacher graded assessments as quantitative data?
We were just pulling, sorry.
Go ahead.
And then just the assessment base, just to kind of, we got the full list from FLVS, and we're just breaking it down with all those
Right.
assessment touch points.
And I don't know that it matters in the argument, but at the end of the day, they do other things besides teacher graded assessments, right? They do parent guardian contact, they do office hours. We don't have data for that right now.
Elementary and secondary both do that.
Right, but what I'm suggesting is that it could be very different. We haven't captured that here. Okay.
So what we're proposing, the other thing I wanted to note on page 2 is we struck through the examples. I found they were getting a little bit cumbersome. We found they were getting a little bit cumbersome. So we've tried to capture better in the language a description of how this will be calculated. So hopefully we have done that rather than needing to provide specific examples. But that's also why we wanted to provide this handout just to kind of illustrate, to make sure that there was clarity, with the negotiating teams of exactly how we're proposing that this be calculated. Because we took the examples out, okay? So what we're proposing is on the last day of each academic school year, the administration will pull data to reflect all completions, and the teacher will be paid for each semester course completion over the yearly maximum active student loads identified in number 4 at the following rate of pay. A semester core course completion, $100. A semester elective course completion, $80. Where we got the 180, our estimate is it's about 3 hours of extra work for a student. Remember, we're talking about a full-time teacher. They already know the curriculum. They already know the grading scales. They're very familiar with it. So we're just looking at how much time they're spending with that one extra student. And then the reason for the 80 and 100 is that that's the ratio that we have in our adjunct pay. So we did revisit that because before our numbers were further apart for core and elective in this piece. But over where we look at how we pay our adjuncts, 110 is 80% of 125. So we brought that number up in this to reflect that those are the ratios that we're using elsewhere. So we felt like that was fair to do here for our full-time teachers as well. Okay. Okay. So if we go to the next page, looking at 9, that's Apex. Our counter on this, we believe that Apex, for a student that completes this, constitutes an hour and a half of work over a 3-week period. However, we're proposing $75 because we want to attempt to capture non-completers, because we do have our teachers that do our summer school for Apex, and they might be assigned students, and not all of those students complete. And so even though our original proposal was $50, because we believed that that captured the hour and a half of work that they're putting into the completers, we've countered at a higher number of 75, because that will hopefully help to offset the work that they put into a student that doesn't end up completing. Okay. All right.
You have any data on completion rate in summer credit recovery?
There was about 3,000 students that were placed in a course, and I believe 809 is what completed last year.
So moving
809
over,
completions in 3 weeks. That's a bright spot. You gotta look at
yeah,
that.
all those kiddos got to move on.
That's a lot of work on kids that aren't completing.
If they don't complete, you don't have to do the DBA though, isn't that right? Isn't the DBA kind of like their final
So the
exam?
DBAs, no,
Oh.
it's the last piece. So for them to have access to that final exam, so they have to reach out to the teacher,
Right.
have that DBA, and then we unlock
Yeah.
the final exam.
So for a non-completer, it's a welcome call and any assistance that they need along the way or unlocking along the way.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So looking at the last page and our adjunct rates. So we heard you said, please don't ask me to sign off on a pay cut for one of our current instructors. So we've modified our language here. We still believe that we should go to 2 tiers, but we have put the language in that says that that would begin July 1, 2022. So our teachers that have already been with us for this portion of the year, thinking that that was how much they were going to make, the previous amount, they will be held to that previous amount. They will make what they were going to make per the MOU that was in place previously. And then beginning in July, we'll go to a 2-tier system, and those folks would be able to decide, whether or not they want to continue under that pay structure. Okay. So that brings us to a conversation about world language, because I did want to circle back to that and address that as well, because we are proposing the 2 tiers, the core and elective. You all had asked us to review whether world language belongs in the core or in the elective or somewhere in between. So again, we went back and looked at the data, and Mr. Erskine pulled information about, again, grading and touch points, because those are the pieces that we take into consideration. So we looked at, oh, sorry, I didn't give them there, sorry.
Make sure one of these is getting back. Okay.
So the question that we were trying to answer looking at this is where does world language belong, right? Is it more core-ish? Is it more elective-ish? Is it somewhere in between? And so when we looked at this, if you look, we have a lot of numbers on here, but I would draw your attention to the blue columns, especially the 2 all the way over to the right. So the one kind of in the middle is the discussion-based assessments. So this is averages. So Mr. Erskine went back and he pulled in every single core course, every single elective course that we offered through St. John's Virtual School. And as we saw when we looked at this elementary example, there's quite a range. Remember when we looked over here, we saw that Algebra 2 only had 17 assignments to grade versus Calculus has 42. So it is quite a range, and that's why we chose to look at averages to try to capture as best we could the wide range of considerations. So for core, you're looking at average teacher graded assessments at 29, total at 71. Electives, your average teacher graded assessments are 32, and the total is 48. When we look down at, then we want to look at world language specifically, right, to see which is it closer to. World language has 15 teacher graded assessments on average, with a total number of assessments of 50. And then Spanish specifically, because we believe that Spanish was kind of where this concern initially came from.
It is.
Spanish specifically has 18 teacher graded assessments on average. So when we review this, we believe that Spanish is appropriately placed as an elective course.
So if you look at the number of teacher graded assessments, that line of reasoning would support raising the elective price because they have more teacher graded assessments than core, if that's the line of reasoning that we're going to use.
They have fewer DBAs.
So all of this assumes that all teacher graded assessments are equal. It's a big assumption.
There's a lot of factors
Yeah.
when we're making all of
Yeah.
these determinations.
But a teacher graded assessment in Spanish is different than a teacher graded assessment in driver's ed.
Mhm.
It just is.
Yeah.
That's the core of our argument. It's not number of teacher graded assessments.
Right.
It's that the work is different. The work is greater. So. Well, when you negotiate virtual school, you get data. Got lots of it. Okay. Anything else?
The only thing I don't know if I mentioned before is on that first page, I did want to note with elementary, we did provide that clarification about the individual student courses that came up in our discussion last week, just clarifying that 35 students means they're in 5 classes times 2 semesters. We thought that would be helpful clarification.
5 classes, 2 semesters.
Yeah. Because we also had discussed then single course enrollments. So if you had some single course enrollments and that put that person over, we wanted to make sure that that person would, fall under being paid for that as well.
So do you see any issues moving forward with 2 terms, student load and maximum student load? Sorry. Maximum active student load, because there's a difference. And completion? Is the same thing? How are they different?
So not all your active enrollments are going to complete by the last day of school. But then that's covered with the second job, which comes into effect for full second job. So that percentage of them being paid. So no, I don't see.
You don't see that they're the same thing. What do you?
So active and completion, it's two totally different things. So who's active so you may have 580 that are active, but only 520 of those complete. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
at
So
the-
we have, yeah,
at
but we
the end
have
of the
a,
year, even though you were carrying 580, you're only being counted for that year for your contract for the 520. And then those other 60 would not carry.
no, they
over
didn't
to the
finish.
summer.
They didn't
Right,
complete.
right.
And if you feel like that's ambiguous, feel free to include that in your counter, because I think where that came from was the original language was
Agreed.
discussing loads versus what we're talking about now is compensating someone who over the course of a year goes over the number of completions. So I see where you're coming from, that those are two different things. So if you want to clarify that, we can have that
I
conversation.
think they are two different things, and I think we're talking about the world of completions now. That active load doesn't really matter unless, what's Cherie doing right now?
She's not.
Am I right? If we're talking about completions, what does the active load matter? And I think that might pose might pose a problem. I don't know. Well,
Wouldn't the active load hold me like
Accountable for
responsible to make, accountable to make sure and try to align you that you don't have 600 completions?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you as the principal, you mean?
Correct. Or administrative whoever's.
Right. Yeah, which I think, when you think about it, it would accomplish what we want. We want the workload to be reasonable
Right.
and not unreasonable.
Correct.
And so maybe active student load is the right language, but for compensation purposes, it's completions. But you would want to keep them under 200 if they're a core.
If it was up to me, I would keep them well under that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. And if you did go over, you run the risk of having to pay for completions that are over. Okay. All right, we'll caucus on that. Is there anything else? There's a lot.
Can I clarify something with Ms. Bozeman? Earlier, I wrote down that you said the break-even point was 380 completions per semester, but I think you meant year, right? Okay.
380 semester completions.
Semester completions
Right.
per year.
Right.
Thank you.
Because that's how they're funded. That's how St. John's Virtual is
Thank
funded.
you.
So the time of pay is still going to be at the end of the year.
Yes.
Can I clarify something? And maybe this is just me not knowing enough about this. But now that we're talking about active student load and completions, now I'm like, let's say they have 400 students, right, in a core class. Or let's take your example of,
Which one?
the one that has the orange bar at the top. If we were to look at, trying to think of D, right? So they had 411 students total for the year, basically, right? But let's say in their normal active load, so I guess they're only going to get paid if every single one of their kids in their active load gets completions. You get what I'm saying? Like if they're over 11 students, but like their normal active load, only 399 of them completed, then they're not getting paid extra, even though they carried the 12 students the entire time, 12 extra students.
And I think that's what you're trying to capture in this idea of loads, that we have a target of loads, that we don't want our teachers to be overloaded. And then over here, we're discussing how we'll compensate them if they do become overloaded.
As somebody who did, I will be honest with you, as somebody who did this job in the P10 role, part-time as needed role, I was fascinated by the structure that I was compensated for a student completing rather than I guess it incentivizes the teacher to do all they can to help the student get through, but isn't that a strange incentive? It always struck me
I
as
think we've been
odd.
making that case to the legislature for several years.
It's just odd.
Because
You know?
I don't get paid for every kid that passes the FSA, even though I've been working my butt off all year.
I'm not saying that I made
So
up
it's
grades,
interesting, yeah.
but the incentive sure is there.
Or it goes the other way where the student's in a course for 2+ years and it's just sitting there because it's based on completion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, as a personal note, my experience has just always struck me as odd. But anyway,
It's an hour block.
it's not brick and mortar school. It's a
Right.
different thing. We'll go caucus. I think we're probably close to 5 o'clock here.
10 minutes. Sorry. We'll have to pull up some more
I'll be here
chairs
to
for
go
us to
audio
jump in.
off and come back and down.
actually have similar.
Audio's on.
All right, I think I come bearing mostly good news, and we'll see where that goes. Working lunch. So we checked our notes, we debated, we looked at why we didn't do this last year. It was COVID year, lots of reasons. But anyway, so this proposal is for next year. We don't want it to hold up ratification for this year. We're perfectly willing to look at this as soon as we start the next round. And so it's not a no by any means. We need to collect a little bit more data to give you a counter that's not rushed tonight. But our suggestion is that since this is for next year, let's put it at the top of the list for things to start with. Article 3, we have a TA. We agree with you on the proper cause.
I'm just signing my name, I guess.
Mhm.
Ready? Article 7, our counter is that we align proper cause, or we revert to proper cause in this case, so it's aligned with Article 3. So we agree with you on that. We do think that our language is more concise in number 3, much less ambiguous. So we are proposing that you reconsider that language. Official reprimand doesn't have a definition. We don't know what that is. A reprimand is a reprimand is a reprimand, and it can be one of many things. But if we're not going to put that in a contract, which is fine, the policy can stay a policy, but let's have unambiguous language here. That is our proposal. It would be in B3. And because it's not new, we did not retype and print. We feel like.
All right. Probably what we'll need to do, Justin, we'll just need to come back when we come back for placement.
Yep.
And we'll just finish this one off.
That's
Okay,
fine.
with the placement schedule.
That's what we figured.
Okay.
That's what we figured.
Yep.
And do you have any time frame on placement?
Well, looking at the schedule, we wanted to see if any of these dates were open for you, the 19th, the 20th, or the 21st, when we can come back.
I know we do one article, but
19, 20, 21st. 20th triple E.
Okay, then the 19th or the 21st.
21st would be the only one I can do.
I can't, but you guys can. I have bargaining and Flagler.
Okay,
this
we're
is-
down to the end. So
Yeah.
we're down to the end. I think that and placement would be the only things on the agenda, I think.
I could probably be here for like an hour, so
21st, any objections?
that's all.
All right. So that's when we can potentially wrap up SJEA.
Right. And Phyllis, can you see if it's available here? Okay.
5 p.m. still.
So, Justin, what is the possibility that you can get everything, because we'll need to go to ratification, get all the cards and everything, if we're able to settle on the 21st?
I mean,
What is your-
we are ready.
Oh, you're ready.
We are
Okay.
ready.
Okay.
So do you want to do virtual and then we can talk about ratification?
Sure.
Okay. And then
Sorry.
so we can just talk with some logistical.
The punctuation will get changed.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that was.
Okay, virtual. Okay. We have let me back up, say where we came in with, and I won't take up much more of the joint session time here. We were concerned with the pay by semester. We'll acquiesce. We understand your logic and your line of reasoning there. Pay at the end of the year. right? Because it's completion based. We were concerned with the secondary pay being too low, and we're in agreement with the 180. Okay. The world language was a concern. That remains a concern. But we will continue to collect data because we don't believe that the workload's the same, even if the teacher, what is it? Teacher performed assessment is similar.
Graded.
Teacher graded assessments. So we're going to continue to, but we can bargain in the future. But we will, for now, we will stipulate it. We're not like in agreement, but based on the data we have, in the spirit of moving forward, let's leave world language as an elective until we can gather more data. And we had a concern about the tiers, and you addressed that in your counter. So the apex is really the only thing that we debated, and the only thing, no, sorry, we debated all of it, but the only thing that we are countering, we think, these people been getting 125. The numbers you gave honestly support the amount of work that could go into a non-completer. So we've coming into this, we felt like 80 would be our floor, meet us at our floor. And I know it's only $5, but that's our counter. So, and that would be on number 9, summer credit recovery. So I can turn to that page. Everything else we'll agree to. Thanks for hearing us, and we hear you. Need to caucus on that? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Sixth.
Kathy, so the school board meeting you're trying to get this approved at would be what day?
Well, what we were looking
That
at
helps us
was-
try to figure out for ratification purposes for us.
Well, we are willing to take it to a special board meeting if we need to in one of our upcoming workshops. If we can get it through.
So,
So if we could get it to the workshop, what we were thinking is if we meet on the 21st, then what's the possibility of, well, we probably won't have enough days. We were looking at this possibility, we would do everything, we would have our piece ready, that if you could ratify in 21, 22, 25, and we'll go to the board on the 26th.
we couldn't ratify on the 21st if we're still
No,
negotiating.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
If we had
sorry.
gone to the 19th or the 20th, we were hoping, but since we can't go to the 21st.
So,
we would
I mean, it
have
has to
wait.
be advertised for at least 3 days. And I know SJEA, since it's full book, I think they were talking about potentially doing, maybe some north, south, central meetings.
Mhm.
But I don't know if that decision's been made yet. I mean,
Ratification, yes, is going to be some work, but we are ready to go do it.
so if we don't have, so the next board meeting would
Wouldn't be
be,
till the 10th. If we don't make the 26th, which there's a workshop, we would be the 10th.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd have anything on the 3rd.
it would have to be the 10th.
Okay.
I mean, unless you did a special board meeting the week of the 3rd or the 2nd, but
Not the week of the 25th.
There is a school board
there's
workshop
no
on
way
the 3rd.
we couldn't do that.
There is one on the 3rd. So if you can get it done before the 3rd, yeah.
Be here on the 21st with placement.
So if you could do it
Some
20,
problems for me.
25, 26, 27, that week, the 25th, if you could.
I,
No,
Advertising meeting.
I don't think we can vote until.
All right, meeting on the 19th. Meeting on the 19th solves this problem. Doing placement and
We could have
On the
ratification.
20th.
And
ready for
Article
this
7
week. Yes.
on the 19th solves this problem.
I mean, if you can get it, yes, I mean, if you can get it ratified on the 21, I'm thinking the 21, 22, and 25, the 3 days.
As that,
Can't get it ratified.
you're talking about
If we
ratifying
have
it by.
everything, if we have everything,
I think we could vote probably earliest would be the 26th.
But that's whether we do it here or here.
Yeah, if we do it on the 19th, the earliest we could vote would probably be, and get all of our materials. I mean, it's
it's a lot, I
it's a
know.
big process.
Right.
I mean, we have to send it to a printer, and I'm assuming we're going to be doing the same thing for SJEA. So I've got that unit to worry about negotiating as well. So I think, Michelle, I think you need to speak up on this.
What do you think?
So we're looking at, if we come to the table on the 19th, in 3 days to advertise, right? 20, 21, 22. As Tammy mentioned, ratification is a process, and we'll make sure everything is absolutely correct with the ballots, et cetera. Could we look at doing ratification May 2nd and 3rd?
They're
When's the
trying.
board meeting?
The third is there. They would.
The next one is the 10th.
Collect them and tally.
So the 10th. So it's going to be the 10th.
It's gonna be the
So let's
10th.
just meet on the
On the
21st.
Okay.
It's just,
Okay.
yeah, we have to tally the ballots. It's just-
We are anxious, but we're not going to risk accuracy.
Right.
21st,
and I'm
21st,
gonna have
but
to go out and do
Okay.
some ratification.
can't meet until
21st.
6, is that all right?
Oh,
Hopefully there's only the two things on the agenda, so
I won't be-
26th.
26.
Oh, sorry, 21st at 6.
And tomorrow's no.
Tomorrow's not happening because we wouldn't have
We
placement
have any
schedule.
placement.
21st at 6.
So then we'll go on May 10th to the board. with,
I mean, I think, I wish we could get it sooner. I just, which
We
means
understand,
probably
that's fine.
the end
I
of,
mean, that's-
will be one big check at the end of the school year.
Right, right.
Certainly will be.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
Well, I'm going to back out. You have grievance, you have insurance.
but the suggested folks can come up to the table.
We need to bring our people in.
Yeah, we need to go and get our.
We need to bring our people in.
Okay,
Yeah, with that.
Reset.
You want me out of here completely?
no, you stay right there.
Sure.
Yeah,
Can I
stay right
please
there.
leave?
No, you
We're
cannot
gonna
leave.
move down and.
Okay,
I'm just gonna switch on the other side of Jessica.
that's good.
You stay here.
Just slide down.
Just let a couple.
You want to switch seats? You good?
No, you stay right there.
We have 2 right here.
We'll sit, Tara sit on the other side. Tara can sit next to Justin. Jose, you can sit down there, next to Morgan.
Okay.
Maybe work on, we're gonna work on.
You guys have insurance, right? Okay. All right, so. This thing here is theirs. 2, 3, 4, 5. Grievance language, or the form we can just hold on to. I should probably keep one for myself.
Okay.
Let me-
Wait, no, I need one.
Here you go.
Here you go.
It's-
Oh, she got more. Okay, never mind.
One's for SJEA, one's for SJEA.
The same, right?
Nope,
Close.
sort of, close, but we
Close.
both,
Once I can walk it back to the
I don't know which one.
Oh, it's on the top.
It's SJEA.
This is yours.
One of them says.
yeah.
Here, let me take it back there.
And the 8 is different in both of them. Okay. If you just want to put them side by side, it's probably the easiest. There's no changes on the front. We had agreed before on procedural guidelines. Going to the second page. We had already agreed to number 10. In the past, a grievance may be withdrawn at any level. We'd already agreed to that. And number 1, we will, we agree with the class action piece, that's fine. Let's see, under representation, the only thing I did add was I put president or designee because this talks about a class action. And so it could, Michelle usually typically involved in a class action grievance, or I could be involved writing up a class action grievance. That's the only thing that's new is president or designee. 8 is exactly what it was before. And we'd already agreed to in the informal section on the language in the informal section, we'd already agreed to that language, and that is it. Das ist alles.
So the difference is in number 8.
The
between
difference
two.
between the two is in number 8.
E8.
And then, as I said before, in number 3 and number 5, we added president or designee.
Different from each other, not different from previous language. Not, yeah,
Same
right.
language. Correct.
Okay,
That's it on grievance.
all right.
And then the grievance forms are here. They're the same. So here, I didn't change anything, just left it as is.
And they're both the same, aren't they?
They are both the same, but we'll both need copies of those to put in the tentative agreements package.
All right, so we'll probably end up caucusing after we finish with insurance.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right.
all right, so I'm going to turn it over to.
Okay.
Jen.
Okay, we're just going to give you an update. We did a presentation to the,
Is that-
oh, yes, please. We have handouts. So we gave a presentation yesterday at the workshop to the board for the insurance. And we just wanted to give you a quick overview of what the presentation was. And Phyllis is going to pull it up.
Just one more.
Yep. I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, just to give you an overview of what we presented yesterday to the board. I'm just gonna give you just a brief reminder of the self-insurance fund. We're a self-insured plan. Florida Blue administers the medical plan, but does not carry the risk. So we're a fully insured fund. Florida Blue would take on that risk, but since we're self-insured, we carry it. The school district pays a fee to access the provider network, manage claim payments and eligibility and other services such as case and disease management. Risk is mitigated through reinsurance, which provides reimbursement on large claims, currently at $425,000 deductible annually. and the pharmacy piece is carved out. And at this point, I was just gonna say, with the fiscal future projections and impacts, we had the last 3 years, we had a 0 increase in premiums for the 1920 school year, the 2021, and the 21-22 school year. Just to give you an overview again, I keep saying that, but it is of last year, the 2021 school year, for our income and expenses for the self-insurance fund. The board contributions total 70%, the employee premiums were 20%, and 10% were the retiree premiums for the income side. On the expenses, 84% of our medical, 84% of the expenses were attributed to the medical claims and the prescription claims. We had 9% for the administrative fees and stop loss fees, 5% for the wellness center, and 2% for other. Okay, give you another overview for the 16-17 school year. You can see from, as of June 30th, 2017, at that year end, we had spent $30.4 million on medical insurance and prescription claims. And if you go all the way over to the right-hand side, you can see our projection for the year end of this year. We're projected to spend $51.6 million, or a 69% increase, and a $20 million increase over these 6 years. Part of this is, if you look at the middle of the graph and you look your way over, our school districts, or all school districts, are looking at 4 generation type of employees. We've got the baby boomers, we've got the Generation X, millennials, and then Generation Z. Every person is different in how they want to work with their doctor. Some want in person, some want to do teledoc or virtual. And the spectrum that we're covering on the expenses is everything from not only physical ailments, but mental health has just exploded, especially during the pandemic.
Can we ask a question as we go through?
Sure.
And maybe you'll get there. The total number of employees in 2016-17 was how many people in the plan?
I will get there under the medical plan only.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So just let me walk you through this slide. If you want to look, first look at the second slide, the second line where it shows a 21% increase. The second line is the contract count. These are the medical plan enrollees that do not include dependents. And if you look from June 2016 to December of 2021, we have grown 725 more contracts in December than we had in June. So hopefully, Tammy, did that answer your question? We were 3470 and we went to 4195 as of the end of December. And the top line is actually, it's the member count, and that covers all medical plan employees, including dependents, or what they lovingly call belly button. And we saw an increase on that of 1,447 contracts more in December of 2021 versus January 2016. Although the medical claims we have paid have grown by 69%, the number of contracts have only grown 21%.
Can we ask questions as you go?
Yes.
I'd be happy to hold them, but
Go
yes,
ahead.
yes, okay. On the previous slide, medical RX claims paid.
Yes, sir.
So in a 69% increase, that is from 16-17 to the projected year of 21-22. Okay, so do you know the percent change from 30 million in 16-17 to 45 million in 2021? Because the medical plan enrollment history ends there. So you're representing a 69% increase, but it's really not. It's whatever 30 million to 45 million is, in order to make these two slides compatible. Right. So we can say that it's 46% and not 69%. Right? Okay. Thank you.
The next, our annual claims cost per contract. Again, this is a review of 2016 through year-end. And you can see in the 2016-17 school year, we paid $8,691 per contract. And in this, by the end of the year, we're projected to go down go up to $12,303.
What percentage is
The
that?
large claim analysis, so again, this slide just to show what contributes to a medical claim that's over $50,000, how many claims we have for prescriptions over $50,000. And you can see from the 1920 year, we had 72 medical claims over 50,000 and prescription claims over 50,000 of 72 and 64. In the 2021 school year, we had 83 medical claims over 50,000 and 61 prescription claims over 50,000. And then as of January 31st, 2022, we had 53 claims from the medical side of 50,000 and prescription 23. So we projected that out, and it's roughly based on the projections, it's about 7.5 claims per month on the medical side and 3.3 claims per month on the prescription. So our projection is we'll end the year, June 30th, 2022, at 90 medical claims and 40 prescription claims over $50,000. On the national trend, based on the 2021 zero cost trend health survey, the average increase in the PPO medical plan over the last 6 years has increased 6.5%. And again, as I said, in 1920, 2021, and 21-22, we didn't have an increase in premiums. So even though the expenses were going up, they held it premiums constant. So as we're reviewing the health plan fund, one of the things we wanted to point out, again, remember, this is funded through board contributions, employee premiums, and retirees. And one of the things we want to do first is look at the bottom half of the slide under the medical, dental, and vision. And you'll see the income less expenditures as of June 20, 2022. In the medical plan, we had an ending balance that year at $9.5 million. The dental came in at $101,472, and vision came in at $289,162. In the next year, as of June 30, 2021, the medical plan still had enough revenue coming in to cover it in the year at $4.4 million. Revenue less, we had more in revenue than expenses, but under the dental and vision, they ended the year in the negative. So as of December 31st, 2021, the medical plan ended in the negative of $1.9 million, dental at $113,687, and vision $55,572. And the projections for June 30th, 2022 is we will not have enough revenue to cover the expenditures by $3.9 million, under the dental $227,374, and the vision under $111,134. So just to give you a current recap, the self-funded plan is financially viable based on our current fund balance. And as our claims and enrollment increases, the expenses, as we just said, as of December 31st, we didn't have enough revenue coming in to cover the expenditures. By $1.9 million, and our projection is we'll end the year this year without enough revenue coming in by $3.9 million. So what would a 1% premium increase look like for our employees? If we had a single employee who chose hospital one, they would have a 57-cent increase in their premium per paycheck. They would go from $63.84 to $64.41. If that same employee single and they chose hospital two, that would go up 72 cents from $78.06 to $78.78. $2.37, and on hospital two, $2.95. And we broke out the same thing on the dental 1 and dental 2. So I'm not gonna read all of them, you guys can see it on your slide, but, if I was, for the family plan and dental, it would go up 11 cents, and if I took the family plan and the dental 2, it would go up 39 cents pay period, and then vision, for the single plan, 0 increase, family plan, 4 cents. And when we look at the district as a whole, with a 1% increase, you would see the employee contributions total for hospital 1, hospital 2, dental 1, dental 2, and vision. The employee would contribute $121,560.95. The school board contribution would be $301,893.90 for a total of $513,445.85. And then we broke it out into a couple of paycheck examples for everybody. You'll see a paraprofessional who shows family hospital 1. Now, if you look at the current column, that's this year, currently where we're at right now, for page 2122, the proposed would be a 1% increase. So if we have a paraprofessional with this paycheck, the total earnings were $1,301.50. And we took off the deductions for the hospital 1, the dental 1, vision, and others. And then we had our pre-tax deductions after taxes, total after taxes, and then bottom line, the net pay, they would go from $756.39, and their pay would be reduced by $2.02 to bring them to $754.37. And we did the same thing on
Gretchen, I'm sorry. Can you tell me which paraprofessional you chose out of the salary schedule? Like, did you pick step 14? Did you pick step 1, step 7? Because that's
We don't know.
super important in your
Yeah.
examples.
I think it was, George, do you remember what this was? I want to say it was on the upper end.
Okay, it would behoove you to pick someone who's new in the district and figure out what the cost would be, but go ahead.
Okay, so on the next one, it's going to be the same paraprofessional picking hospital 2, and the difference would be $2.58. We attribute the hospital 2, dental 1, vision, and other.
And again, this would be okay, no, that's a teacher.
It's per pay period.
Okay.
Per pay period, and then we have teacher. So with this next one, you can see the teacher chose family hospital 1, and if we go for the same scenario for this one pay period, the current year, there would be $1,490.16 with a 1% increase for the premium. It would go down $1.90 per paycheck. And the last one is family hospital 2 for a teacher. The take home would be less, $2.67. So one thing to remember though, the most an employee is going to pay with a 1% increase, if the employee chose hospital 2, family, dental 2, and vision, it would be annually $62.32. So again, based on an employee picking the highest amount for the premium deduction.
Where's that number?
You multiply it by 19.
So 267 times 19,
Because it's 19 pay period.
and that's 60, what was the number, $62?
$62.32.
You go where you want to go.
Go ahead. I'm sure I'll type it in. See what the initial questions about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the presentation there, especially the last few slides, seems like minimal impact to employees' pay, right?
Yes, sir.
I would ask that you expand on the tax deduction portion.
Expand on,
The tax deduction portion. Does this require somebody to itemize their health costs, or is this just already done by payroll? What? How would you explain this to the employee?
Like on page 16 or 17.
Like they know what they earn, and then they know what they're getting deducted for hospital 2, dental 1, vision, and other.
Mhm.
Then how do you explain the next 3 lines to them?
The total less? Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about?
Total
And
less,
taxes?
and total taxes, and total deductions.
So the total less pre-tax deductions. So we're taking off the pre-tax deductions for their health insurance off of the $1,301.50.
Mhm.
So in the total taxes based on that $932.83 is $155.90. Total after-tax deductions, $20.54. Again, I don't have the actual, these are actual employees and I'm not really sure what
Mhm.
made up their deductions.
Okay.
I'm still confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I could explain that to an employee, but because I don't understand it.
If you're pre-taxed, you don't pay any taxes because it's pre-tax, but then you're taxed again? I'm confused.
Pre-tax deductions. So taxes are not being withheld on your taxes. But you do have to pay taxes. So your after-tax deductions, $20.54.
That wouldn't change in this scenario. I mean, the net
All right,
difference
we
is
can- we can come back and
$2.58.
explain it. We can have Jay come and give you a tutorial.
Well, Jay should have, I mean, I'm just going to say it. Jay should have been here. This is her committee. He should have been here to present this. But let's move forward.
Well, what I think Tammy and I probably have the same question here, is that the last few slides especially, the impact to the paycheck of an employee is minimal. Okay, so there's nothing to argue there, right? It's minimal, there's no doubt. So the question is why would we want to change? And I suppose I need to ask, are you proposing a change right now? An increase of 1% right now? We've settled compensation. We need to get to ratification, which is not a slam dunk. Go ahead and say it. Are you proposing a 1% increase?
Let's pass out the article. So there's 2 different ones. One's for SJESPA. This is SJESPA, and this is for SJEA. So there's SJEA because they are just a little different. There was an added in. So this is, those are, so I'll let you
These
pass
are all the
out
same?
your, yes, those are all the same. Those are SJEAs.
Okay.
And then this is SJESPA. This is SJEA. And so those are, yeah, the
This is
contribute,
SJEA,
this is
so Morgan.
SJESPA. And what we did, we added that there. That's the only difference between, and you'll see on the second page. So what we did,
It's
the
different.
only
I'm getting
thing
your
we
notes.
changed on SJESPA is we added the word contribute.
Can you wait 1 second? They don't have them done right now.
No, I've got one.
And here, Jose and Tara. Okay,
So the only thing we did is we added on the SJESPA contribute, so it would match the
Okay.
same here on D.
Yep.
Okay. And then on the second page, what we did is, if you remember, we had an MOU. Kathy rolled 2 of the items right into the article now. And so the employee will have the opportunity to change plans in each school year during open enrollment or throughout the year within 30 days of a qualified family status change as governed by Section 125 pre-tax contribution plan. And then again, the employees that have a spouse covered by the medical plan will pay an additional premium 35 pay period if the spouse is offered insurance through an employer-sponsored insurance plan outside of St. Johns County School District. Okay. And then M, it was crossed out on SJESPA's, and we added on M on SJEA. There will be no insurance premium increase for the current school year, 21-22 school year. And we're proposing that an insurance premium increase of 1% will be implemented for the 22-23 school year.
And that's on both. I don't have
It
adjustments.
is.
Okay.
it is, it's the same.
Okay.
It's the same.
All right. So the questions for us really revolve around it, and Tammy, jump in whenever.
Yep.
Revolve around the current health of the plan fund, because the way it's presented is that expenses will exceed revenues, which can happen from year to year. On other years, expenses don't reach revenues. I don't get a refund, right? So, so where is it over time is a real good question. And so it's currently, the balance is at 45,776,000, right? Oh, that's projected. So the most current number here would be 47,700,000, right? So how much do we need to have in the fund? That question could be answered a couple different ways. Could you answer it?
So when we have to send our information up to the Office of Insurance Regulation, they require a minimum of 60 days, like a safe harbor. So you gotta have money in the fund because we are self-insured. So it's $60 million, or 60 days, I'm sorry. You have to have 60 days on reserve for that to
Okay.
be covered.
And I've got that at 3.6 million. Is that close to accurate?
No, it's gone up. The 60 days is 9.1 million.
9.1 million.
Yeah, because we're spending about $151,743 a day.
Okay. And so, okay, so that's the minimum recommended, which of course we don't want.
Correct.
What do we want? 120 would be 18.2 million, right? 120 days?
I don't think the committee's decided how many we wanted.
Right. But my point is,
Speculate.
we keep going to, how many days run out is 47 million? A lot, right? Way more than what's
It's what we
needed.
had.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say it's way more than what's needed, but
Well,
it's.
by any measure, it
Any
is.
district or any employer that's self-funded, you're going to try, that's the only thing you can control. We can't control the expenses. We can only control what's coming in. We don't know right now what's coming in after COVID. We've already talked about that. We've gone 3 years without an increase. I think way back when, to go back to the history, back to the 13, 14, 15 school year when we had to do a 12% increase. That was not nice. I mean, it was not good for anybody to have to increase premiums by 12%. We haven't, since 1819, we haven't raised rates for premium coverage. What our proposal is, if you start looking at again, we're starting to dig in because the expenses are growing. They're growing rapidly.
But my point is, because it's a huge mountain and we dig in a little bit, it's just a less huge mountain.
You're entitled to that.
Yeah.
Say that, but
I mean, that's what the numbers would suggest.
And
It's a
we raised
big
it,
pile of money.
and we raised it 12% because the plan was in the red.
is in the red.
It was
That's
in the red.
correct. That's
And
Yeah, there was
so
a acute
that was,
need.
I mean, we understand that. I mean, this is, I'm sure I have a lot of counties that would like to have this kind of money in their insurance reserve account. That's a lot of money.
I just think it's not the full picture to
Well-
present expenses and revenues in an individual year.
Well,
That's
if you
my
look
point.
at, so when we ended the year in June of 2021, we ended the year in fund balance had grown by well, it was down, but it was $49.7 million. Our projection this year is to be around 47 million. So we had grown at 4 million. Now we're coming down to 3.9. That's a $7 million swing. Okay, so even that is saying our expenses are going up. So when the board proposed this, they never wanted to do this again. They never wanted to come back with a 12% increase. When we start looking at next year, that's why we said, you know what, let's hold this for next year. We've got minimum wage going up to minimum wage, $15 an hour if the governor signs it. I'm sure you are for school districts. So that's October 1st. We've got our teachers. We've got a $13 million package on the table for an increase in salaries. Fuel prices are going up. The cost of everything is going up. Expenses, they're going up. We know they are. This is a 1% increase. So that's what's on the table.
And I had our teacher compensation package at 10 million. Did I miss something?
Well, fourth bargaining units.
But-
Okay, got it.
13
Total.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
And typically, we negotiate salary and compensation. I mean, salary, compensation and insurance at the same time. This is an anomaly that we're doing it separate.
It is for next year, to be fair.
Correct, it is for next
Correct.
year.
I'm happy to
Can
hear
you
that.
tell me why the plans, some of those plans are in the red? Like, why the dental and vision? Like, why all of a sudden, what happened with those? I mean, I can ask the insurance committee. But I was just curious if you had any information on that.
We had more expenses than we took in revenue. It could be because we didn't increase it for the last 3 years.
Right.
We didn't increase those premiums for those certain groups.
But couldn't you use some of that extra money to help improve, to help balance that as well? It's not, it's irrelevant right now, but it's,
I'm so sorry, can I ask a question? What year did we do 12% increase?
13, 14, 14, 15.
Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Is it over those 2 years or one
Yes,
of those 2 years?
It was.
Over those 2 years.
over 2 years we had.
Yeah, that was post-recession. We're still in it, I guess.
I don't know.
All right. Do you have any questions before?
Nope. I think we can caucus. And we could probably stay in for that. Okay.
Mind if we use this room because our team is twice the size right now? Okay?
Yeah, I think, and we're good, and who's in the audience, we just Audio on.
All right,
Go ahead. We'll let you
All
guys
right.
go first.
so there's just a little clarifying language here, and just to be a little bit more specific. We agree to everything except the one where we crossed out an officer of the association, and that's what we put back in. And that's the only piece that it's SJEA, and this is SJESPA.
This is
This is
adjustment.
you. This is SJESPA, and this is SJEA.
This is you. Grievance.
Can you give me reasoning why?
Just being more specific. So it really clarifies it.
So the original language in this article was the association.
Mhm.
We added an officer
Officer.
of the association.
Fred, was your language, our language?
I'm lost.
I'm lost.
Who proposed an officer of originally?
I think we did. We did.
Okay.
And then you crossed it out, and then we brought it back.
And we said the association.
Right.
So
We
this,
like the old language.
right, so the reason being is that me, as the service unit director, should be allowed to be at a meeting like that in the event that one of the officers might not be able to be. This is very seldom. This is very seldom this happens.
Mhm.
This is when a non-member files a grievance, which they have every right to do, correct? I want to
Right.
make sure I'm on the same, I think I'm in the right language. An employee shall choose whether or not to be represented, but we do not have to represent them. So we, as the owner of the contract, I think that's not the right word I want to use, we have the right to be at that meeting to make sure that whomever is listening to that grievance is not cutting a deal that's different than what the contract reads. So by just saying an officer, that would mean me as the bargaining agent would not be allowed to be at that meeting. And I am a certified bargaining agent.
Well, and in our,
Through PERC,
How
by the
I-
way, I'm a registered agent through the Public Employee Relations Commission, who also bargains this contract. Both contracts, helps, Justin. The association owns the right of the contract.
right, no, I don't.
Therefore, I should be, and I have been, I actually sat in on one
Right.
with Tim, been
About 2 years.
been about 2 years. So if you wanted to be following the language, no matter what, it would be Tammy, so sorry, you're not allowed to be there.
Is that the intention?
Is that the intent? Right.
The intention is it would be a member of you. I mean, Tammy, you.
But
that's
I'm
the
not an
intention.
officer, though.
Okay, well,
That's
Neither
the,
am I.
then we'll need,
nor there's
need
Justin.
to, we'll need to go back and clarify that then.
So I mean, I think association keeps it clean. The
Well,
association,
then define association. Who's
Justin,
association?
Sally, Tara,
So it's a
Jose,
member of the
a member
association.
of the association.
And so it would be anyone here, and that wouldn't include anyone else?
No, it would be
In,
17.
I know where you're going with this, now that I am thinking a little bit through, I know where you're going with this. And this doesn't, this is just dealing with a grievance. It's not, this doesn't deal with disciplinary. This is just literally, there is a
No, I know.
grievance. I just want to make sure, because I'm pretty sure, I know we have an upcoming arbitration later this month. This doesn't change that language. Disciplinary, an employee has a right to have their representative of choice in that meeting.
That can be anyone.
That could be anyone, per
Member or not.
per the law, has a right of their representative of choice. But if you put an officer of the association, I am not an officer, Justin's not an officer, Sally's not an officer.
And this is grievance only we're talking
And
about.
I do believe, I'd have to look in chapter 447. I mean, I don't want to hold this up. I don't want to hold up one piece for SJEA, although you are coming back as well. I'm hoping we don't have to come back to SJEA again. I think it's never been let me rephrase that question. Has it been a problem in the past, Kathy?
Not to date.
Okay, so why would we change language? I'm going to use Kathy Weber's and your comments. Why would we change language in the contract if it's never been a problem?
Just for clarification. That's what we're looking for.
Well, it's not been a problem, so I think the association keeps it that the association, meaning SJEA or SJEA, has a right to be at a meeting, whether if it's with a member or not a member. I think that's clear, it's unambiguous.
Any thoughts?
I mean, if you're going to use the same words on every time you use
You
the
made
same,
your point.
yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll just bring it back, I guess. We won't be able to settle on SJEA, but they can't. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just bring it back then. Or, yeah, okay, just bring it back.
I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Mhm. Nothing else over there, right?
No, that's it.
Tammy?
Okay.
So just a few notes here. Insurance runs on a calendar year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you're asking for an increase for next year, which the calendar year doesn't start. It wouldn't start till like open enrollment's not until October? Correct. Okay. So this is a proposal for next year. We haven't talked about compensation yet for next year. The committee hasn't really met. They met and discussed this year, and we rely on our committees. We talked about committee work a lot here. We want our committees to be able to do the work and to provide information back to the bargaining teams. So because they can meet, they can analyze the data, they can look at it and provide some additional feedback to both bargaining teams because they do talk to us about it. It has definitely gotten better over the years. It is a minimal increase. I do get that. It's definitely minimal. However, depending on the employee it is, if you look at a non-instructional employee who's only making $11 an hour, that minimal increase might be a lot to that person. So our counter is no increase. However, we would come back in the fall. Let's get this done. We know that we have to do $15 an hour. As long as the governor signs the budget in and everything passes, we know we have to come back and have that implemented before October 1 with a final date of December without anyone getting a lawsuit happening. We haven't discussed compensation for the instructional staff yet either. So our counter, everything else is fine, but our counter for both teachers and support staff is no increase for this year and no increase for across through. We're not opposed. We are not opposed to having a discussion around that for next year.
I want to reiterate that. We're fine, put it at the top of the list,
Absolutely.
the agenda, get the committee together, get it with compensation.
So that in open enrollment, it's ready. It's ready to roll. So I think that can help, possibly move get the school board on board with that. We can get having discussions of compensation right away, get people paid a lot sooner than the end of May, because I know people are ready to be paid. So it would be good. It's a good recruiting effort for everyone so let's have that conversation in the fall.
So, do you have any questions? SJEA is done then, right?
Correct. You guys are holding that too till next week as well?
21st,
I will be here that day.
right?
Right.
That's when we'll see.
21st is
We'll
when
see you again on the 21st.
I won't be here that day.
Right. Well, you'll be here for a bit of
Another
it.
time for
But I won't be here, no, because you're not starting until 6 o'clock.
Oh.
I can't be here at 6 o'clock. I already have another commitment. You guys can't come back with a counter insurance, so we're done with that? You can't make a
Can we
decision on that?
Can we settle it?
Can we settle insurance tonight?
We're truly, if you trust us, we're truly not opposed to putting it at the top
I
of the
mean, it's
list.
on the record, it's loud, we're not opposed to having that discussed right away.
All right, we'll caucus and we'll come back. and just-
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks, Deb.
thank you. And if you could just discuss grievance, that would be really good too.
Audio off. Audio on. Sorry.
All right, ready?
Yep.
All right, grievance language. We have crossed out an officer of and put it, like you said, an association representation.
Representative?
Association,
Shall be provided. Look at the sentences.
Okay.
Association representation shall be provided an opportunity to be present at any meeting.
Okay.
So that is SJEA. Look at the
Okay, look
sentence.
up higher in the
Look at
paragraph and then
sentence.
higher in that section E, that's what it says, association representation. Gotcha.
It's throughout.
good.
Thank you.
That's it.
I think that one.
A lot of these TAs tonight have handwritten stuff in them. Calling to Phyllis or?
Mhm.
Thank you. You can go first. It's the exact same form?
Yep. Exact same form and the exact same appendix. Goes in that little book.
Thanks.
Take numbers too.
SJEA. Yours.
All right, Justin and Tammy, we're gonna hold firm. Going back and sending it back, and going back and on or off and back to that 1%.
There's a
We
word.
agree, we need to come back earlier. But we would just like knowing that we have that 1% coming in at the beginning of the school.
Yeah, here's a fear that we didn't say out loud at the table. We agree to 1%. What are we gonna see in August and September? Another 1%, 2%? We don't know.
No, for health insurance,
But-
that's it. for
But
22,
for the year
23.
after, I mean, we're just gonna keep. I think you're. We don't want to jeopardize ratification. We want to get to it.
And it's usually done with compensation.
Yes, it usually is done.
And
And this
so-
year, it's been just one of those years we did not do them together.
I mean, we'll caucus with our team. I mean, but the district and I shouldn't say that. District would be willing to go to impasse over that? You would be willing to give up everything for something that,
Well, we need to stay firm with the 1%, knowing that it is for next year.
Let's bargain next year when we start next year.
No, I just don't understand.
I'm giving you my word on the record, and she's giving you your word on the
Absolutely.
record.
The whole team is giving their word
The
on the
committee
record.
said no. Mark Bailey said it's the healthiest balance he's seen. I mean, the argument here isn't that strong. It's not. We understand that we need to keep adding to the fund, keep it healthy, but it's not, we're not in a thunderstorm here. This is not,
We're not looking at the Office of Insurance Regulation sending a note saying that we're in trouble.
we have like 6 times the run out. I
Yeah.
mean,
A lot of money in the reserve account.
we'll do it, but let's bargain next year.
Okay, well, then send something across, I guess. If you don't agree to it, then send it back the way that you want. And if you're not agreeing to it.
We're going to undermine our own committee. We sit over here and fight for the committee process, and then the committee meets and they say, okay, maybe maybe an increase is coming, but what did they vote on this year? What did they vote?
No to any increase this year,
Okay.
and nothing was brought up for next year.
So bring it to the committee, convince them that that's what's needed, and we'll
You
go
could
from
bring
there.
a
We can't
proposal-
undermine our own committee.
Right. And you could bring a proposal to us in the summer. We can start negotiations whenever you're ready. And you could bring it to us so you have it ready. But it should come, the committee does the work. The committee,
And the committee's just advisory to the board.
the committee provides the language in the contract says that the committee makes the recommendations to the negotiation teams.
Recommendation.
Makes the recommendation.
What would stop the board from from putting in their contribution this year? Do you need us for that? You don't need us for that, right? The board could just decide to do that. That's where the bulk of the money comes from
Could
anyway,
do
right?
increase their contribution, the 1%, not.
Well, and I think that, in all fairness, the board has put forth $13 million this year
In salary,
in salaries,
Mhm.
yes,
but
yes.
Yeah, much needed.
But-
Don't take
Absolutely,
ratification
right.
for granted,
You know,
Kathy, I'm telling you.
And absolutely,
People
yes.
got their own, we got to battle misinformation. We got to get this ratified. You're giving me another handcuff here.
it's
Let's
absolutely.
get ratified. You have my word that we will talk about 1% right off the bat.
You have support staff who.
They need to get to 15 an hour.
They need to get to 15 an hour. They're not even there yet. And you have some who are making $11 an hour. The example you gave is, in the handbook, is someone who, that was in the proposal, was someone who makes $900 a month. I mean, you didn't give us, it wasn't apples to apples.
Mhm.
Your presentation was completely different than the presentation the insurance committee saw. So it makes it a little, and it's not enough information.
Mhm.
Like to validate why we would want to increase it. We're basing something on projections. If we base everything on projections,
Well, and in all fairness, I mean, anything could happen to the plan. We never know what's going to happen to the plan.
there
in
could
all
be a
honesty.
hurricane that came in
No,
here and
but I mean,
demolished the,
We could have high claimants on the plan at any
you have
given time.
$47 million in your
You can
reserve
withstand
account.
several
And
of
it's
them.
not all reserve money.
That's what's in the fund.
That's what's in the fund.
What's the balance?
You
Yes, but
have-
that's not- when
take
you say
out-
you cannot
Take
use
out your
general
60-day
fund,
run out, you still have quite a bit of money in there.
minimum. That's the minimum.
We're not confusing it with the general
I'm
fund.
not.
We're not.
Oh, no, I didn't mean, I meant the fund balance. You can't say all.
Plus, you didn't even bring your insurance person to come to present the whole thing. So, I mean, I know you sit on the committee, Kathy, I mean, but when we are this close to settling and you come with an increase in something, I think Justin said it, like you're handcuffing us.
Another obstacle.
Another obstacle that we have, and furthermore, employees have been waiting all year long to get paid, all year. They've been waiting all year.
I understand that.
I'm sure your administrators are waiting to get paid because they get paid after the teachers and non-instructional settle. I mean, why would you want to do this at the last minute? Literally the last minute, when we're trying to ratify and get everyone paid before everyone leaves for the end of the school year.
Well, it's what the
You're
board
willing to
is
take that
standing-
risk?
The board would stand firm on it, at least the 1%, at least for next year. Not this year, next year. is what
But we're not negotiating for next year. We haven't even talked about money for next year. We haven't talked
It
about,
circumvents the committee process
it
that we
totally-
sit over here and.
you tell us to rely on the committee. Your committee comes and talks to you at union meetings. They give us the increases. They've been doing that diligently. We get all of the information.
We're gonna do it anyway. I can't do that to them.
I mean, why have if that's the case, then don't even have your insurance committee work anymore and you just propose the increases. Because that's kind of what it seems like. You're not even relying on your committee who does all of the work, who analyzes the data, who looks at everything, who, goes through the, all the financial information. There's smart people on that committee who,
No one is saying they're not. No one is saying that.
but if they believe that there needed to be an increase, I'm going to tell you right now, I know that woman right over there, and she would tell us straight out flat, we have to have an increase because we are bleeding the fund dry. You are not bleeding the fund dry.
No emergency.
There is no emergency for this.
Oh, good, okay. Finish there.
We need to go.
Yeah, you guys
You
go.
got
Yeah,
two.
we have a lot to do, and I have to drive to Orlando tonight.
Do we have suggestions?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yep, we'll be right back.
No, all I'm telling you is that.
I know you don't. But I have my. Yes.
What are they adjourning?
Because they're going to reconvene their team. Because there are different people on this team.
Is the understanding that we're leaving?
Yeah, you guys are going. So you guys are leaving.
On the 21st, we're